Okay, this is piece 72, The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli. And the context to know is that there was a Dominican friar named Savonarola. He was known for making prophecies, and he got a pretty good following of people convinced that all the art in Florence should be destroyed. This was a time when the Medici family was amassing a lot of art. Artists were quite famous, and Savonarola was so convincing that Sandro Botticelli allegedly took several of his paintings to the bonfire, and they were disintegrated. Three of his paintings were saved, and that's because they were hanging in the Medici family homes. And this was one of them right here, Primavera, and then this one was Venus and Mars. And this is the monk Savonarola, who was um, burned uh, a year later in that square. And more context is that Botticelli was, we think, pretty in love with this woman. She was a married woman. She was married to Vespucci. This is Simonetta Vespucci. Um, you can see here that she is going to be in several of Botticelli's, or the three that we have, three of Botticelli's paintings. And what's interesting is that she died 10 years before the paintings were made. So it's his memory of her that he is painting. And he, we think, was so in love with her that he was buried at her feet in a church in Florence. The function of this piece is, as I've mentioned, the Medici family commissioned it and owned it, and this is just a sign of their wealth. It was probably meant to be hung over a wedding bed. And then one of the functions of it, I didn't write it down, but it's kind of significant, is that the idea of seeing beauty, even if it's physical beauty, can, some believed at the time, can cause us to see spiritual beauty. And that's the one of the potential messages of this piece. The form of it is that it is tempera on canvas. It is a massive canvas, 6 by 9, probably the biggest at the time. Most painters painted on wood. And the problem with wood is that in a humid climate, like in Florence, wood would warp. And so Botticelli here switched to canvas, which was considered a cheaper option. In terms of content, our Venus here looks really like a statue. And we believe that it is modeled after this statue. It's a Greek statue. Praxiteles is the Greek artist who made this statue. There were several Roman copies, and probably the Medici family had one of these copies in their home, and that's what Botticelli saw and fashioned his painting after. Um, the um, nude woman idea had not been painted in art other than um, Eve in the Garden of Eden. So this is, more than 1,000 years of lack of female nudity. So this was pretty amazing of Botticelli to recreate. And again, he's not relying on church um, stories or biblical ideals for this piece. He's going back to Greek mythology for this. And the Greek mythology story is that Venus, who would have been Aphrodite in the Greeks, that she floated to shore in a cockle shell and landed on the island of Cyprus. And that she was born from the god Uranus, from the sea foam Oh, I won't go into that story. She is as pure, the metaphor here, she's as pure as a pearl. Her body is this beautiful pearl-like white. And in the left-hand side, she is being blown to shore by the god of the wind, um, and he is carrying Chloris here. And Zephyrus is that god of wind who some say that this couple is really to be quite admired in the piece, the way the robes flow and the way that the god Zephyrus' hand is out here kind of balancing him. At any rate, roses were also born with Venus, according to mythology. And then when she lands on the island, she is being greeted by this person whose identity is discussed, but the most common identity here is Hora of Spring. And we can see that she's got this myrtle around her neck. Her robe has all these spring flowers in it. And she's got a girdle here that you can see these pink roses on. And then under her feet are blue anemone. Not as clear to us, but I bet in person much clearer. So this Birth of Venus piece is very famous, and this is Andy Warhol making his own version of Venus in 1984. Here is Rip Kronk, who did Venus on a Half Shell in 1978. Here's the half shell, and you can see Venus in all of these magazines. And if you Google it, the images, she is all over the place. So famous painting from the Italian Renaissance.